Well, we are back with Colossians 2:16, and we are moving forward with it. Here's the key code. There you go. If you want to pause and look at that. But we were last time looking at how Christ disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to shame. And this idea of being free in Christ has come about because of his really his sacrifice, his work in us. And he's freeing us to where there's now a new principle coming up for us to consider, and we'll go through this passage as we go forward. But let's just read to the end of the chapter here. And verse 16 says, "Therefore let no one pass judgment on you in questions of food and drink, or with regard to a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath. These are a shadow of the things to come, but the substance belongs to Christ. Let no one disqualify you, insisting on asceticism and worship of angels, going on in detail about visions, puffed up without reason by his sensuous mind, and not holding fast to the head, from whom the whole body, nourished and knit together through its joints and ligaments, grow with a growth that is from God. If with Christ you died to the elemental spirits of the world, why, as if you were still alive in the world, do you submit to regulations? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch, referring to things that all perish as they are used, according to human precepts and teachings. These have indeed an appearance of wisdom in promoting self-made religion and asceticism and severity to the body, but they are of no value in stopping the indulgence of the flesh." So again, there's this variation, or this contrast between works, between hedonism, and between a real relationship, a genuine relationship with Christ. And so we start out in verse 16, where he says, "Let no one pass judgment on you in questions of food and drink, or with regard to a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath." This is very similar to passages on the conscience. You would find that like in 1 Corinthians 8, 1 Corinthians 10, Romans 14 are some of the main ones. But the idea here is we have to have a response to how we live and how people respond to us, then we respond back. It's this mindset of responding. And he says, because of Christ, as it says up here, that he freed us from the law. We're no longer ashamed of those kind of things, and we're not trying to live up to some kind of standard per se of all the regulations and ceremonies and things like that. He's talking about a new heart, a new way of living, a new mindset, all from this relationship with Christ. So then we're not to respond by letting someone pass judgment on us in questions of food or drink. These are conscience issues with regard to a new moon or Sabbath, the festivals. The idea not being that there aren't any more commands, there's no right or wrong. That's not what it's talking about. What it's talking about is all these ideas of religious mindset, of just doing things in such a way as to impress people, or to really make a mark in your life and earn a place in relationships, things like that. It's all based on God's grace. And when he's saying let no one pass judgment, that's not talking about like confronting them and going, "You're not going to pass judgment, and you have no power." It's not talking about trying to control someone else. He's basically just saying give no one a reason to pass judgment. It's where is it? That's here. I get my notes out here, but I think we already mentioned like 1 Corinthians 8, 10, and then Romans 14. But specifically about let no one pass judgment, that's kind of like, actually in Romans 14, I don't know, 15-ish, something like that, where he talks about nothing that you consider good to be spoken evil of. Again, he's not saying people shouldn't be speaking and you got to stop them from speaking. It's like, you live in such a way, the context there is you live in such a way that whatever you're doing is not coming across as evil, is not coming across as an impediment to someone else. It's the same thing as like in 1 Timothy 4, when Paul is telling Timothy that let no one look down on you. I think that's verse 12, but let no one look down on you because you're young. It's not you're supposed to walk around and say, I'm young, you can't look down on me. It's the idea of people are going to look down on you because of youth or things like that. People are going to look down on you because of decisions you make. People are going to respond to you for various reasons, but you don't give them the typical response. Like a young person often is immature, foolish. They do silly things. They react with their high maintenance, things like that. That's an immature person, and people expect that from someone who's younger. But just because you're younger doesn't necessarily mean you have to act like that. So he's saying live in such a way as that's not what you're going against expectations by living like Christ, living with Christ. And the same thing here, that people expect that someone who's not very regulated in their food or drink or the festivals or new moon or Sabbath, that if they're not caring about that, obviously they don't care about the Lord. Well, he's going, no, don't let people judge you for that, because if you live in such a way that the substance is Christ, that the reality of your character, your love, your concern for others, this becomes a non-issue. And that's kind of what he's talking about. So we're going to continue on in chapter 2, verse 17 next week, but that's enough for now. We're kind of out of time. So we'll jump into verse 17 next week. So God bless you guys.